Hello, I'm Samara Rosado, and today we are going over Module 4, which is infancy. So we start with the overall physical growth during infancy. The average newborn size in the US is 7.5 pounds and 2 inches long. The baby loses about 5% of birth weight in just the first few days. After this, rapid weight gain follows. The weight doubles by 4 months, triples by a year, and quadruples by age 2. As for the head, it is 50% of the body in the womb, 25% at birth, and 20% at the age of 25. Head control is difficult for the baby early on because the head is so big and they have weak neck muscles. Now we're going to dive into growth of the brain during infancy. As you can see, the brain growth is very rapid even since birth to age 7. Next, we see how neurons rapidly form thousands of dendrites in the first 2 years. Prefrontal cortex maturation, so it controls planning and emotional regulation and judgment, and it's also the last part to mature. Also, myelin is the fatty coating on neurons that speeds up brain signals. They improve coordination, movement, and thought. So here we look at gross and fine motor skills. Reflexes to voluntary movement include sucking, rooting, and grasping that the baby is born with. So gross motor skills are big movements like lifting their head or crawling, while fine motor skills are small movements like grasping and reaching. Vision is weakest at birth but increases rapidly by 6 months, and hearing is well developed at birth. They can also taste, feel touch, and recognize their mother's scent. So there are many benefits to breastfeeding. Here we start off with nutritional superiority. Breast milk has ideal calories, fat, protein, and iron for the baby. It also has health protection benefits. It provides immunity and resistance to many diseases, as well as allows an easier transition to solids later on. Here we look at the nutritional concerns of marasmus and kwashiorkor. Marasmus is caused by severe calorie and protein deficiency. It leads to weight loss and muscle wasting. Signs of it includes thinness, frail appearance, and lack of energy. Babies that are breastfed also have a much lower chance of being malnourished. As for signs of kwashiorkor, it includes swollen belly and loss of appetite. Prevention includes making sure the baby is getting nutritional support. The 6 substages of sensorimotor intelligence include reflexive action, where newborns respond with automatic reflexes like sucking or grasping. Next is the first adaptations, where they make voluntary movements and discover actions by accident. Repetition and interest in environment is when repeated actions that produce interesting outcomes take place. Goal-directed behavior is when they begin to show intentionality. They become little scientists when they participate in active experimentation. And lastly, mental representations are the use of mental strategies and pretend play. Language development during infancy includes the holophrastic stage, where one-word expressions are used for conveying entire thoughts. At this time, the listener must interpret the meaning. Speech is not always clear and are mostly simplified versions of words. Underextension is limited word use, where a child applies a word too narrowly and not specifically. Overextension is when a child uses the label for many things. This is when intentional vocalizations, like cooing, begin. So as the infant is growing, there becomes self-awareness, stranger wariness, and separation anxiety. So stranger wariness happens around 6 to 15 months, and this is where there's a fear or caution around unfamiliar people. Going to separation anxiety, this happens around 6 to 15 months as well. So this is where there's distress when a caregiver leaves. Mirror test and self-recognition happens around 15 months. So this is where the child recognizes himself in a mirror and starts to, see themselves as someone that they recognize. And self-awareness leads to social emotions. So guilt, shame, embarrassment, sympathy, empathy develop later at around ages 3 to 5. So this is after the self-recognition, and this is where they begin to develop social emotions. Temperament and goodness of fit. So easy/flexible, regular routines, generally happy, slow to warm up/cautious, and needs time with new people and situations. And then child can be difficult or feisty, energetic, intense, easily frustrated, or undifferentiated, hard to categorize clearly. Goodness of fit is a best outcome when a caregiver style matches child's temperament. We have 4 styles of attachment in this module that include a secure attachment, where the child feels confident that their needs will be constantly met. Next, we have the insecure resistant attachment, where the infant is clingy, has anxious behavior, and is hard to comfort. This could stem from inconsistent caregiving. Insecure avoidant is where they avoid contact and appears emotionally distant. The disorganized attachment is where the infant distributes confused or contradictory behaviors, which could be linked to trauma. Lastly, we will dive into Erikson's theory. We start with trust versus mistrust. This is where the central task is that the infant develops a sense of trust with caregivers and the world. They depend on caregivers for basic needs. The role of the caregiver is that they are responsive and consistent and are able to build trust. Issues like neglect, stress, or unwanted pregnancies can disrupt bonding and therefore trust. An easygoing temperament and support from caregiver can buffer negative effects. Autonomy versus shame is where the central task is to develop independence and confidence. Encouraging autonomy includes a safe and supervised exploration where the child can be themselves. Risks of over-controlling can cause shame and doubt. And that is my project. Thank you for listening.